It's an absolutely wild day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Duskmourn has officially been out for less than a week, and it's already a catastrophic failure. Players are unhappy, stores are worried, and are already looking at discounting this product to get it off of the shelves because of how bad it is, thus proving that the real House of Horrors is Wizards of the Coast.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for another glorious installment of Mega Magic News. We've got the Duskmourn Disaster Edition, and it truly is a disaster. I have an entire page of issues to discuss in regards with this set, and I want to start out by talking about Wizards' insane release schedule because it has been amped up even further this year in the second half of the year. So, as a little exercise in imagination, I want you to think to yourself, Duskmourn's been out for almost a week now, so how long is it going to be Magic's newest release before it gets replaced by Foundations? Pick a number of days in your head. Now, if you said 35 to 36 days, congratulations. That's the reality that we're living in. The Foundations pre-release is that many days away. A little over a month. There was a time where standard sets were given room to breathe, right? They would basically be given 4 months in the sun each. But we've reached this point where they don't even get 2 months. And this is terrible for Standard. And speaking of Standard, I want to talk about the history of Standard and its downfall, but I'm going to do that in a live stream later today over on my live stream channel. You're welcome to join me over there. There are a bunch of recent live streams that are up still you can take a look at talking about this insane Commander fiasco we've been dealing with. But ultimately, Wizards is scrambling to try and grow Standard again. But the sad reality is we're never going to get there. So if you want to have more details about that, join me for the live stream. We're going to focus purely on Duskmourn specifically for this video. So, Duskmourn has this tiny little window within which to exist, and it's coming off the heels of Bloomborough, which is the most successful standard set of the year. Although, let's be fair, the bar is pretty low. We started out with Markov Manor, into Thunder Junction, then into Bloomborough, and then finally ended off with Duskmourn before Foundations, which is another standard set. It's absolutely wild. Although Foundations does have some positive aspects in that it's meant to assist new players to get into the game when Wizards had basically yanked the ladder away for new players going, it's Commander or nothing, chumps, which was a disastrous business decision that is echoing through the game in a number of different ways. But Duskmourn is sitting here coming after Bloomborough, the biggest success, and one of the big reasons Bloomborough was a major success is because it returned to Magic's roots, right? Instead of being a complete gimmick set like Detectives, Cowboys, or Horror Magoo, we had a traditional swords and sorcery style set that also had a fun little, hey, check it out, we're looking at Redwall, we've got the animals as like the humans essentially, so it had something to make it feel unique, but also genuinely felt like a real Magic set that echoed the old Magic. And I heard that from a bunch of people where like, Bloomborough helped me really figure out why I had a problem with the whole setup of Markov Manor and Thunder Junction. And the reason is they're gimmick sets. And that is something that Duskmourn definitely suffers from on two different levels. Because unlike Thunder Junction, unlike Markov Manor, where Wizards of the Coast had one gimmick they were trying to pull off, with Duskmourn, you literally have two different gimmicks that they're trying at the same time. One is the horror side of things, where you've got all these homages to different properties. And let's be real, some of the horror stuff that they've done with Duskmourn, the artwork is amazing. If they had fully leaned into that concept, the set would have gotten a better reception. But unfortunately, on top of the horror, let's try and do every movie gimmick, you have the 80s nostalgia, Stranger Things, Ghostbuster stuff going on, where you have like crazy horror beasts, But then you have dudes in windbreakers and Converse shoes. And like, I have heard nobody going, yo, I love this. All I've heard is people going, this flavor makes no sense. They told us that Duskmourn was literally like this demon house that took over the entire world a long time ago. Why is everybody in super fresh windbreakers and pristine looking gear? And why does everybody have these weird techno items when in the story they told us that they barely could cobble anything together? Why do they have these crazy, gigantic, mechanical nonsense tools, right? And that was because obviously they had planned a very heavy Ghostbuster tie-in. It's entirely possible that they actually had two different sets in mind, and one was going to be a full-on Ghostbuster set, and one was going to be a House of Horror style thing, and they just kind of crammed them together. But you can see this dissonance across multiple things, including the trailer, right? So right out the bat, you have the fact that it doesn't feel like it makes sense, and it's a double gimmick set when gimmick sets have been failing. Markov Manor is one of the biggest failures in Magic's history, and that one, not only were game stores going, okay, we have to fire sale this off hardcore, but distributors were literally refusing to take the stuff back. So it genuinely damaged the supply chain of Magic the Gathering. Now, Thunder Junction was lucky in that people, some of them went, boo, 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 okay, I'm in on it. So it didn't do as badly as Markov Manor, but Wizards had to pull some tricks to try and reinstill a little bit of faith in the distribution chain, right? And now we're reaching another set in the same year where it's people are already looking at fire sailing it within the initial week of it coming out. This is not something that's ever happened before 2024. In Magic's entire history, there hasn't been a situation where stores are like, yo, we got to get this off the shelves now when it comes to a brand new product. But it's happened twice this year. Markov Manor was really poorly received. So Duskmourn isn't Markov Manor level, let's be very clear, but it's not even Thunder Junction level. So it's just a step above Markov Manor. And what happens is when game stores are forced to liquidate this stuff this early, what happens, they turn around and go, okay, I've got to hold back on my orders. I'm not going to buy as much. And this knocks on to the distribution chain where the distributors go, well, no, if we buy too much of this stuff, then we're going to end up being stuck with it and people won't buy it. So Wizards has shaken the faith of their entire distribution network to a huge degree. And considering they're trying to rebuild Standard right now, which absolutely requires things like LGSs to be on board, this is a huge problem, right? LGS is more and more, I'm hearing from game store owners, they are moving more and more away from Magic the Gathering. They're still getting it because it's a product they can sell. But before, it would be the premier mainstay item. Now it's a side offering, and they're focusing on other card games. Let me get some One Piece. Let me get some Star Wars. Let me get some Lorcana. Wizards of the Coast is losing ground with this insanely greedy concept they have, where these sets are poorly received, poorly designed, and cost twice as much as Magic sets used to. If you just go back maybe even 5 years, Magic cost half of what it did. But we don't have a game that's twice as good or taken care of in a better fashion. As we go through these items, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So the sets are selling poorly. They're already being discounted. They have the same terrible quality issues that we have seen with Magic cards over and over and over. It's basically to the standard now where if you contact customer service, there's all kinds of quality issues that they'll just go, we consider those printed to a reasonable standard. And at the same time, Wizards is going, well, we want to make some super duper extra special foils that are the kind that you would see in Japanese card shops. And what that is, it's an admission that the card quality is very poor, because in Japan, they have a much higher standard for what they will accept. There's a lot more card games and competition is much tougher. So Wizards is forced to offer them more than they offer us. They've gotten really lazy over the years. And at the end of the day, Hasbro is desperate for money. Wizards of the Coast has to provide that money. And that's why we're seeing these prices ratcheting up. They're not going to spend the extra money on quality control because that affects the bottom line. And even though Wizards has been pulling in a bunch of money, it's not nearly enough. And they're projecting that they're going to be in the red this year. If they do make it a profit, it'll be like a 1% to 2% profit. It's absolutely crazy, the situation that we've found ourselves in. Wizards of the Coast is scrambling to pump out product at such an insane rate that we are seeing errors across multiple different products. Takes, for example, the Duskmourn commander decks, which have multiple issues. One of the issues is with Arvinox, okay? So Arvinox is a in-universe reprint of a secret layer card. So in Stranger Things, in that secret layer, we had the Mind Flayer. So they reprinted it as Arvinox and said, here you go, here's an in-universe version, so you don't have to use Stranger Things stuff. But this is considered to be an identical card to Mind Flayer. And what that means is, in Commander or any other format, you have to treat it like it is the Mind Flayer, which means you can't have Arvinox and Mind Flayer in the same deck if you're playing Commander, because you're only allowed to have one copy. And if you were playing like a regular 60 card deck with 4 ofs, you can only have a combination of Arvinoxes and Mind Flayers that equal 4, right? That's it. That's the restrictions. You can't go 4 of each because they're an identical card even though they have different names. And so Wizards of the Coast has a system they use for this to indicate in-universe reprints. They have a little secret layer equals, and it lets you know the number of the secret layer card down there on the bottom of the card. Well, they just didn't print that on Arvinox. So now you've got a situation where it's not printed on Arvinox, and if you actually go to Gatherer, which is Wizards of the Coast's official search engine for their cards, that'll show you all the cards, it does not show you that it is the same as Mind Flayer. There is nowhere that you can reasonably find this information. If you do a Google search with Arvinox, MTG, Mind Flayer, all of it, you can't actually find anything directing you to the fact that it is legitimately a reprint of this card, and you can't play both. And this is in the format that Wizards cares the most about, which is Commander. And speaking of problems with the Commander deck, they messed up the skew. They skewed it up, boys. So, if you don't know what a skew is, I'm talking about the barcode on the Commander decks. So, with all of the Commander decks for Duskmourn, they all have the exact same barcode. And this has led to a situation where multiple different retailers are getting hosed, where they basically go, okay, somebody goes, I want to order the jump scare deck. Well, guess what? The other 3 decks all scan through the system the same way. So tons of people are getting the wrong decks from Amazon. Same thing is happening at locations like GameStop. And it's even funnier with GameStop because GameStop has a little disclaimer that says styles may vary. So if you go into the shop and go, I got the wrong deck, the GameStop employees go, styles may vary. It's not a style, bro. It's not like I'm buying a plushie and I got a blue one when I was supposed to get a green one, or its eye looks a little different. This is functionally an entirely different product. But because Wizards printed them all with the same barcodes, this is a problem for every single LGS. The LGSs are the only ones that actually know the difference, though. So they have the easiest time dealing with this. But it doesn't change the fact that this is caused by lazy nonsense on Wizards of the Coast rushing to push out products. The fact that we've gone from 4 months for a standard set to 2 months has led to tons of errors. So this leads to feel bads for people who want a particular deck and don't get that deck. It equals lost revenue in returns. Obviously, it causes the people who need to return it their time as well. So this hits on multiple levels. And considering how much Wizards has been leaning into Commander, you figure they'd put a little more effort into the Commander issues. But Duskmourn all over the place has different problems. For example, in the French version, you've got Enduring Vitality. So the French printings of Enduring Vitality, which is an elk, by the way, the cards all say it's an elf. They say it's an elf. For the life of me, I don't understand how Wizards of the Coast can screw up this badly. It functionally changes how the card actually works. Yeah, this is actually an elf now, right? And Wizards can't be bothered to go and update things like Gatherer, so good luck finding the information that you need in any reasonable fashion, right? So you've got these kind of issues. There have been complaints about the cards themselves in terms of things like the rooms bringing a ton of complexity to the game. These tiny little cards that have 2 little sides on it, trying to keep track of all the fiddly bits of that. So that's just another side effect of Wizards constantly cranking the power level, which cranks the complexity on the cards. And speaking of power creep, Duskmourn has also added to Mono Red's domination on things like Arena, where it's like, oh, hey, look at me. I can easily win on the second turn. Power creep is absolutely out of control in Magic the Gathering, and Standard has been massively affected by this, right? To the point where not only are the cards crazily powerful, but Wizards, in a knee-jerk freaking out reaction, they're like, why is nobody playing Standard? Why aren't they buying the boxes of these cards? What do? We have so much product still left to sell. And then somebody goes, make Standard 3 years. Great, we can sell our product. And so they do that. They get to sell on the product. But guess what happens? You have an environment now that was already broken with 2 years worth of stuff that now has 3 years worth of stuff in it. And on top of that, Wizards of the Coast designed so far out in the future that the extra sets that were coming along weren't designed with this standard in mind. And they told us going forwards, they will be designed with that standard in mind. But they won't, because Commander has become the main focus. Thunder Junction had 50 different legendaries. Rosewater has come out and said they've recognized they're printing way too many legendaries in sets. And on a side note, guys, just so you know, I firmly believe that at some point in Commander's future, Wizards is going to change it so that your commander doesn't have to be legendary. Just can be any creature. Why wouldn't they? It will make them more money, right? They changed Planeswalkers into not being Planeswalkers anymore because of Commander. They wanted more cards that could be Commander. And the rule committees, they were in charge of Commander, so they could go, no, it's only legendaries, right? But now that Wizards in charge, they can make any change they want in the name of the community, where it's like, hey guys, you know what? More people in the community can enjoy this format if any creature can be your commander. So this whole like warping everything around Commander is just going to become more prevalent as far as I'm concerned. And it's already affected a whole bunch of Magic the Gathering. So Duskmourn has the split personality problem, where you have two different concepts warring with each other. On one side, you've got the House of Horrors. On the other side, you've got the 80s stuff, which really does not meld together very well at all. The story did not satisfy anybody, ultimately. The story was a huge failure. You have the situation with the buy a box. If you haven't heard about this, Wizards of the Coast knew that Duskmourn was not going to do well. So they felt like they had to juice it by giving not only a buy a box card, but a buy a box collector pack. And I know for a fact they did that back with Throne of Eldraine, but that was when they introduced collector packs. Not because Throne of Eldraine was going to be a weak set. Throne of Eldraine was a solid set. They just wanted to give people first taste is free kind of thing, right? Let me deal you some collectorness. But I don't believe any other set has had collector packs as a buy-a-box promo. And on the surface of it, hey, Wizards of the Coast sending out collector boxes that you can give away to people? Nice! What a bonus! But no, guess what actually happened? They sent out these collector packs. They did not communicate effectively enough that these were buy-a-box promos. And they included them with the extra packs and extra boxes that come along with pre-release kits. So how it works is when a store is doing a pre-release, they order X number of pre-release kits. And based on the number of pre-release kits they order, Wizards will send them prize support, where it's like, okay, we're going to give you this many boxes of packs to give away for buying these products, right? So what did they do this time around? They reduced the prize support for the pre-release. So you're supposed to get X number of boxes of Duskmourn. You get less boxes than that, but you get collector boxes as well. But these collector boxes are meant to be given away to people buying boxes, which means even though you spent the same amount and bought the same amount of pre-release kits to give out at your store as part of the event, well, to sell obviously as part of the event, the packs that you give as prizes have been reduced because Wizards didn't include this as extra. They removed boxes that the store get as prize support so that they could save costs, right? So now the stores turn around and some of them think, oh, these wow, Wizards sent out collector boxes as prizes for the pre-release. How awesome is that? But instead, what you have is angry customers who are like, yo, there's a buy a box promo where I'm supposed to get a collector booster for buying a box. And the stores are like, no, they sent those out for the pre-release. And then you have people turning around and going, oh, these greedy LGSs, they're straight up just stealing these packs for themselves, right? And to be fair, there are a handful of game stores out there that are run by scummy people who totally steal the product. But That's not what's going on with these stores. These are stores that are trying to do what they're supposed to, but Wizards of the Coast is doing things at a breakneck pace. They're completely convoluting their schedule. Like, Duskmourn was supposed to stick around until Christmas. If you go on to Arena and you look at the Mastery Pass, they have different pets that you get. And the last pet on the Mastery Pass is literally a Christmas pet. It says Merry Beastie. He's got Christmas lights twirled up in his antler. Like, this is 100% supposed to be a set that went until Christmas. And it was supposed to be out around Halloween. Now, almost immediately after Halloween is over, boom, Duskmourn is gone. We're on to Foundations because Wizards is greedily trying to grab as much money as they can this year because every quarter has to kick profits up to Hasbro because Hasbro is literally using Wizards of the Coast to pay for all their new initiatives. On top of that, they have to pay for all the mistakes, like Hasbro losing $1 billion on their entertainment industry. So more and more pressure is being put on Wizards of the Coast, and it's leading to errors across the board. The new Secret Lair Super Drop is another issue that Duskmourn is facing, where it's not doing well at all. Remember when I said that Hatsune Miku Secret Lairs sell out instantly, and I told you to grab them as fast as you could in the previous time we talked about it? Well, guess what? They're still on sale now. Almost nothing, with the exception of the Peach Momoko Secret Lair, which one of us sold out. None of the Secret Lairs have sold out. Hatsune Miku is at a low stock, but all the Ghostbusters, all the Chucky, all the Duskmourn tie-ins, the showcases, all that stuff, they have tons of it left. Wizards of the Coast is not selling through it, and they screwed up one of the cards as well. In the Monstrous Magazine Secret Lair, you have Koma the Cosmos Serpent, right? And basically what they did, and I don't even know how they did this, is this creature is supposed to trigger during each player's upkeep. Instead, when they typed it out, they have your upkeep. And it's like, aren't you just copy and pasting this text? This is a pre-existing card you're reprinting. How do you manage to functionally change it? And so again, Wizards of the Coast, as is becoming the norm, has to put a little disclaimer going, oops, we made a mistake, and so we're offering this $5 off. By the way, it's not supposed to say that. They're rushing so hard and so fast that they genuinely can't keep up with their own insanity. And actually, speaking of Secret Lair insanity, Wizards of the Coast was trying to market a hatchet with it. Literally an axe. But at the last minute, the legal department said, hold on. This is Hasbro. We're a toy company for kids. I just want to make sure that I understand this. You're not selling like a little foam axe like you did for Garuk. You mean like a fully sharpened hatchet that you can use to cut logs and stuff? Yeah, we even have images of it smashing through an apple. Every image of this axe being held, it shows a lady with her long fingernails. And when it comes to the axe being cutting down an apple, completely different hands. Same hand, same hand, same hand, some dude's hand. And it's just, the whole thing makes me laugh. Yeah, legal was like, no, you're not allowed to sell bladed weapons. We're literally shutting it down. So they had it up on the website for $100. And it's literally just an axe that has the word Secret Lair on it. There's nothing stylized about it. It looks like something you could pick up at any hardware store, but they're like, check it out. We burned Secret Lair into the handle. You should pay us $100 US for this, right? And nothing about it reads like a joke. This does not come across as there's nothing in the announcement. It's a serious posting about selling it, and then a little disclaimer saying at the last minute, legal said that we couldn't do it. I wonder why it was the last minute. I wonder if it's because this set was originally supposed to have a much broader time frame and be going for the next month and a half at least, if not 2 months. But nope, now that we got Foundations coming along, you got it crammed in, and legal has to scramble and be like, no, idiots, you can't sell axes to children. Listen, you greedy goofs, we know Hasbro wants the money, but there are limits, right? So Duskmourn is a complete nightmare, 100%. You add all this on to the fact that there's just a genuine lack of demand for standard now. Wizards of the Coast has destroyed the standard format. It got completely crushed by multiple decisions that they made. Obviously, the pandemic does factor into that. But how Wizards responded to the pandemic, the arrogance that they had over Magic Arena, and the way they've purely focused on Commander, warping every release around it to the point where standard sets are basically just, check it out, there's a whole bunch of Commander stuff here. Modern Horizons literally got completely warped by a throwaway card they didn't test that was meant for Commander. So all of this has led to Standard being a languishing format. If you go out to the game stores, you won't be able to find Standard matches except for in very tiny pockets, right? There are places that have huge populations, and there's enough people who have held on to the dying embers of hope for Standard that Standard is still an ongoing thing for them, right? But ultimately, most game stores, especially the ones in my area that I've seen, you go there, you will always be able to find people who are playing Commander. They will be there on Magic Nights. Commander is the only thing that fires off. Standard, forget about it. Modern, forget about it. Like the one-on-one play, Legacy, Vintage, nope. It's all Commander. And Wizards did this by going, Commander is the casual format that most people play. And instead of servicing that as an additional format, they went, everybody needs to be a Commander player. It's all Commander. And ultimately, the situation with Commander is going to get progressively worse because of Wizards of the Coast being in full control of it now. This tier system that they have is going to lead to no more bannings, right? Wizards of the Coast doesn't need to ban cards anymore. Why would they want to ban cards if they can keep reprinting and sell to you when they can just go, oh, it's the highest tier card, right? Oh, that's all. Just don't play tier 4 if you don't want to run into it, right? And then they go, oh, tier 1 is just going to be like whatever, a little pre-con level stuff. But you wait, they're going to start to sell different tier level Commander decks where they're going to make tier 4 Commander decks they have to pay like $1,000 for. And if you think that's not going to happen, then, you're being naive. Let's be very real. Wizards of the Coast is chasing every dollar they can. They put all their eggs into the Commander basket, but without realizing that that's what they were doing. The company blindly came out and was like, hey guys, we have our own internal reasons as to why we think Standard isn't really being played as much and people aren't interested as much, but we're interested in hearing what you guys have to say. And we're going to make it into a 3-year format, but we have tons of great plans for it. And yet none of those plans have really materialized. And the whole, everything's going to be balanced that we were told, we're seeing no signs of it. If you go and play Standard on Arena, you're going to play against one of two decks. It's like, hey, do you want to play against Mono Red Rush? Or the other thing, Magic games are over in 2 or 3 turns. Everybody concedes, nobody sticks around. It's not a social experience at all anymore because for physical Magic, if you went out and played, right, you had to get all your stuff together, go down to the game store, you're going to sit down and actually play through some games. On Arena, it's just bam, 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 bam. So Arena has been one of the big contributors to the problems with Standard. And so now Wizards is doing all these Standard releases and in fact putting out an extra Standard release this year, expecting that Standard is somehow going to rise from the ashes when all of the things that they used to do, and there is a whole list of things Wizards used to do to keep Standard flowing. And Standard was actually the gateway that everything flowed through. And guess what that did? That kept Commander from being out of control. It kept Modern from being out of control. It stopped problems even in Legacy and Vintage overall. When Standard was Wizards' main focus, the game was far healthier, right? And again, that's something we're going to talk about in the live stream tonight, where I go over what's going on with Standard, what it once was, what it's become, and what this ultimately means for the future. And bear in mind, most of my predictions that I make about the future of Magic and what's going on have proven to be true. I predicted what was going to happen with the last 3 years. I was right. You go watch the video about Magic Grim's future in the next 3 years, you'll see that I was right. I made a video predicting that Wizards of the Coast would take over from the Commander Rules Committee. Again, I was bang on with that. I've been playing this game for a long, long time, 30 years, and I've seen what works and what doesn't. And what's going on right now is having a knock-on effect. Duskmourn is suffering because it's a poorly put together, gimmicky Standard set that is power crept way beyond expectations and also in a super condensed situation. And so Wizards is basically relying on the Standard format and a few random things that maybe will reach out to Commander to make this thing go somewhere. But ultimately, it's a dead duck just laying there on the ground, not enough energy to even quack, right? So basically, Duskmourn is done so. There's nothing that's going to happen now where it's going to get picked back up. The whole hubbub about the commander bans has completely overshadowed it. Nobody's even really talking about Duskmourn that much right now, and it literally hasn't been out. Its official release was the last Friday. It's Thursday now, so it'll be 1 week tomorrow. It's absolutely insane. Anyways, that wraps up this discussion. Thanks for coming by, my friends. Big shout out to my patrons for supporting my channel. I will be live later today on my live stream channel. It is pinned down in the top comment. You're welcome to come and hear all about Standard. In the meantime, head on over there and listen to some of the Commander discussion, because there's a lot of useful information over on that channel. Thanks for being here, my friends. See you next time.